want to take you behind the scenes for how I prepared our company to hit a $200 million revenue target for next year. This is known as annual planning, and I've run the same process ever since we started our business a little over 4.5 years ago. So every year we go through the same thing, and I'm thinking of doing a 3-part series. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in part 2 and a part 3, because if you are, happily we'll deliver this to you. But the behind the scenes of what is annual planning? Why do you need to do it? How do you prepare for it? Part 2 might be, okay, what's the actual process of an annual planning meeting? And who knows for part 3, I'll keep you posted on that one. But this prep for how to run an annual planning meeting is everything if you are really serious about growing your business next year. If you're not serious about growing your business next year, then don't even bother watching this, because all I'm going to do is go through the nitty-gritty of how to leverage the great ideas that your team members have, the feedback of what didn't go well this year and what did go well this year, in order to propel you to success for the following year. And for me, annual planning, the real purpose of it is to get the entire team aligned on what is the plan? What are we doing that's new? What is the target? How do I know how my department or my function fits into that target? And I'm gonna let you in on just a little secret. I hate this process. I hate everything about this process. There's no part of me that's just like, oh, I'm so excited to go through annual planning. This is gonna sound like a lot of work, but it is worthwhile work. And after having done this for over a decade and leading these types of meetings, I can share with you all of the things that I've learned, all the things that I've done incorrectly to be able to help you set yourself up for success, and most importantly, set your team up for success. Because ultimately, as you grow and scale your business, whether you're a $1 million business owner, a $12 million business owner, an $88 million business owner, and beyond, you're wanting to leverage your team to help you grow the business. It shouldn't just be on you to have this master plan that you never share with anybody. So let me walk you through the prep that I went through with our team to get them ready to go into our annual planning meeting. So let's dive in. We always start everything with intentions. I can't tell you the amount of times I've shown up to meetings, events, opportunities, and I'm the only person that's clear on what I'm trying to get out of something. I want to ensure that I bestow upon my team the exact same thing that I know has made me successful as a business owner. And that is, why am I here? What do I want out of this? And if I, as the business owner, don't know what my team members want, I'm not going to be able to as successfully craft the agenda for what the day is. So you'll notice here, I'm walking you through the exact form that we used. So this is totally behind the curtain, what actually happened in Cardone Ventures this year. The first piece here is, what is your intention for the annual planning meeting? What do you want to get out of this? And everybody had different responses. So at the end of this, I aggregated all of this to look across the board at what is everybody's intention. And for the most part, people wanted to get clear on what the targets were and how their departments impact those targets. I was like, okay, I feel pretty good about creating an agenda like this. Number 2, what is the most top of mind topic that you propose we discuss during the annual planning meeting? You'll notice how I create this question. Be specific and don't worry about hurting anybody's feelings. Sometimes annual planning can just lead to this bullshit conversation of like, oh, we want to talk about this, or I'm not really going to talk about the challenging things. We're just going to make it a fun, happy event. I want people to actually bring to the table what is not working and what needs to be talked about that might not be talked about in other areas, because it's just not time to go through more strategic, difficult, gnarly conversations. So I ask people, like, be specific, don't worry about hurting anybody's feelings, including my own, including Brandon's, including Grant's. You're not gonna hurt us. What do you want to talk about? This can be an issue, an idea, or a proposal. So I'm opening up the door to say, what do you want to talk about? What is top of mind for you? Because again, I'm collecting data to create an agenda for this meeting. If my agenda that I'm already planning on delivering hits all of these topics, I'm good to go. But if it's not hitting these topics and I realize I have to add some stuff to this agenda, that makes for a better meeting. It makes for a meeting that actually is impactful, instead of you just in the dark one day on your laptop deciding to put together some agenda that you likely chat GPT'd to begin with. So this was very eye-opening and very helpful for us to look into, because some things that team members wanted to talk about weren't even on my radar. And we spent a designated amount of time going through all of those things to make sure that these topics that they proposed actually got discussed. Now, on this little point, when somebody gives you feedback like this, whether it's a customer, a client, a team member, a significant other, a friend, when anybody gives you feedback because you ask for feedback, you have to acknowledge that the feedback was heard. Meaning, if I would have just put this in here and then there were 3 or 4 topics that I didn't want to talk about, I'm not just avoiding talking about them. I'm either going to tell that person, hey, this is a better time, this other meeting is a better time for us to go through these things. Let's take this on in that conversation. Or I think we should just have a conversation between the 2 of us. It could be a team meeting. Whatever the right form is, you're at least acknowledging that you heard this person, that you can move the conversation forward in some way. But if it's not the right place and you know it's not the right place in front of your entire leadership team to have that conversation, don't have that conversation then. It's your meeting. Okay, next up. So it goes from the individual to the department. So the third question, what departmental win are you most proud of from 2023? The reason I ask this is I want to make sure that we are highlighting what is happening that is successful. If you're running an annual planning meeting correctly, it's likely going to be entirely focused around what's not working, how do we fix things, what's new, and it's just more outflow. But if you can't take a second and say, oh wow, this is what I'm really proud of that's happened over the last 12 months, what's the purpose? What's the point? I like having these conversations, and what was really cool about this particular question is the majority of our team members talked about team member wins, team members hitting goals, team members having success in a variety of ways, being able to duplicate themselves. That's what you want your team to do. You want them to be sharing wins about other people inside your business who are crushing it with you. It reinstills and re-engages people about why they're actually there. You're there to help people. Question number 4. How can your department support increasing revenue for 2024? You'll notice that this little form here is for every department head. It's not just for sales, it's also for HR, it's also for accounting, it's also for technology, all of the departments that you might not normally think of as revenue producing. But I'm asking, how does your department connect to revenue? You shouldn't be the only person beating down this drum of how are we growing? How are we adding revenue? How are we becoming more profitable? You should solicit other people's ideas around what they can do in order to help support this goal. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how do we grow this business next year? Well, if all of your department heads or all of your leaders or all of your team members aren't clear on what they can do and ideas that they can bring to the table about generating more revenue, who does generating revenue fall on then? Yes, you. It falls entirely on you. I don't want that responsibility. At the end of the day, I'm responsible, but I don't want that responsibility. I want to share that responsibility. So what great ideas do they have for how their departments can generate revenue for 2024? I want to hear what those things are. Okay, next up. Propose projects that you would like to tackle in 2024. Using a SWOT analysis of your department can help with brainstorming. So this is just a laundry list of all of the projects that each department might want to take on so that you can spend intentional time getting everybody clear on what projects are taking place. As your organization grows, it's easy for silos to get created. We don't like silos. We do not need silos. Silos, get out of here. Cross-functional communication, collaboration is vital. So having these projects listed and being able to go through all of the different requests at annual planning is a very helpful step to getting the cross-functional communication that you're really looking for. Okay, this was number 5. Number 6, list the projects your department is currently running within your department and estimated completion time. We did a little bit of a reset inside our business this year, and this reset had to do with the fact that we established a project management office called a PMO, the fancy term for it. We established this PMO, and we didn't have this project management office take on every project, only the top priority projects across the organization. So some departments were running projects, not working cross-functionally, they were working in silos, and we're still cleaning up a little bit of this. So this was a place for us to say, guys, where else are we not connecting so that we can get connected during this time and start 2024 off right and clean up any loose ends that we might have before the end of the year. Number 6, what constraints is your department currently running into that, if removed, would help you and your team be more efficient and achieve better results? Again, I'm trying to stimulate people to really think about what's stopping us, what is in our way. The more you can get your leaders and the people you depend on to think about problems ahead of time, the sooner you're going to be able to actually complete the things that you know need to be completed and get to the results that you're trying to achieve. But sometimes it's easy just to go guns blazing into a project, into an initiative. We're going to do this come hell or high water, especially in startup environments. And people don't think about, okay, what else could make me more effective? What is this thing that I keep running into that if this was removed, I could move that much faster? It's just spurring creativity. And some departments are going to be better at this than others. Some team members are going to be better at this than others. But if you don't ask, you're not probing people to think about the things that you actually need them to think about. If they're not thinking about what could potentially stop us, then they're more likely to actually get stopped because they didn't put a plan in place to get ahead of that. You're trying to get them to get ahead of it, because if they're ahead of it, you're ahead of it. The team's ahead of it, which means you're gonna be able to move faster because you're not actually gonna get stuck. Okay, on to the next. Number 7. I'm gonna lump number 7 and number 8 in together. So this project requests between marketing teams and technology teams. Those are the two teams that get swamped with requests in our organizations. That could be a fulfillment team for you, that could be your IT team. There could be a whole bunch of teams that you have that just get inundated with people making requests of them constantly, and they can't keep up, they aren't providing transparency. So this is, again, a way to get everybody on the same page. Hey, marketing, we know you have 75 open projects. These are the 25 the team's expecting. Now that we know that there's 100 projects in total, how do we properly resource? And if we can't afford, we can't fund an additional couple of team members to take on the additional 25 projects, out of the 100, which ones can you tell us that we're actually going to be able to move forward with? That's something that I see happen as businesses go through break points, especially getting over the 50 million in annual revenue number. They want to do all of these things, and all of these projects sound like nice projects, and each department could use the help, but is it really going to make the most out of what your team's resources are? And you can't just hire for fixing every problem. You're never going to be able to fix every problem in your business. So if you don't figure out how to prioritize and at least explain to people, this is what the priority looks like. This is what it looks like for us to be able to achieve more than what the priorities are. And this is when I'm going to be able to communicate to you that these things are moving forward. That removes the frustration that a lot of teams can face when dealing with stakeholders that do have departments that they're running that just have so many requests coming in. If you can't help them bring visibility and transparency into their departments and the issues and all of the priorities going on, it just causes rubs between team members. Even if they like each other, they get frustrated because they're not getting the response time, and the other team member might not be able to know how to say, hey, this is my plate, it's really full, so I can't take on this biscuit that you're adding to my plate because the biscuit's gonna spill over and break the plate. So, number 9, give a list of where you're spending your time relative to company OKR projects. For those of you who don't know what OKRs are, they are objectives and key results. So our organization went through this planning process last year to determine what the most important objectives are and the key results of each one of those objectives going into 2023. So you'll see here that there's CV core business growth, financial services, marketing services, recruitment services, 10x buy sell, 10x insurance. And I'm trying to get an understanding of where everybody is spending their time so that we can better resource for next year. Ideally, you don't have all of your team members working on every single project, but sometimes as you get big, that can take place. So this was an effort for us to just get people who are stakeholders in all of these things maybe being responsible for less things and tapping in other people who could use those projects as more growth-oriented opportunities. So after you collect all of this data and information, now it's your time to prep. Aggregate all of this. Ideally, you send this assessment out 2 to 3 weeks prior to your annual planning meeting so that you have a deadline to get it turned around and time for you to take the feedback and incorporate it. As you look at incorporating the feedback, I'll just get into that in another video. Part 2 is going to come your way. And if you want to know more about how you create teams that help you with this type of thing, maybe you don't have department heads, maybe your business isn't big enough yet to be able to fully create an annual plan, let's fix that. I have an amazing book. It's called Teamwork. And this book, Teamwork, I think I have a copy somewhere. It'll magically appear. This book, Teamwork, is geared towards helping business owners grow their businesses, scale their teams. Watch this magic. Ta-da, magic. And it gives you the blueprint for how to have difficult conversations with team members, how to hold them accountable, what the agenda for meetings like this should be. So if you don't have a copy of Teamwork, I would be happy to give you a free one. You just pay for shipping while supplies last. I'll have the team put that link in the chat or down below for you. But this book will help you build the team so that you actually have people that you can create a process like this around. It is annual planning season, my friends. You have to get started with getting your questions prepped so that you can ensure that you are going into this next year with a solid game plan where your entire business is aligned with what the targets and goals are of the organization. I will see you on the next video where I go through how to actually run the meeting. What does the agenda look like? How do you prepare for the actual meeting itself? And get into some good nitty-gritties on my do's and my don'ts. But before then, don't forget to leave a comment down below. How have you used annual planning in the past? Do you do annual planning? Is it always a failure? Do you hit your targets? I want to know more about what your process is and the things that you are running into as it relates to annual planning. I look forward to seeing you on part 2.